Hey everyone, welcome to the Sibling Soapbox Podcast. I'm Tristan Venture.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather Evans.
And we are the hosts. We are here today to talk about health hacking in a broken medical system. It's a big, heavy topic.
Yes, it is. But before we begin, my brother and I want to say that officially, this is not medical advice. Our disclaimer is that we are not medical experts. We are two humans trying to get through this thing called life in a healthy way. So this is not medical advice. This is just experience and for entertainment purposes only.
And discussion. We're just opening up a discussion, open the floor here, let everyone kind of chime in and help us out because, we're kind of mystified by our broken medical system, and we would love to engage with others, even so-called experts, and hear thoughts from both sides, opposing views. Let's see what you have to share with us. Let's hear your soapbox. Before we start, I just wanted to ask you, Heather, do you have a daily hack that you kind of implement into your daily routine, a health hack that works for you?
Yeah. As we get into this episode, I'm going to talk a lot about some hacks that we have found as a family and especially for me individually. But let's see, something daily that I would do that I feel is really effective, and I also encourage in my kids, is something called grounding or earthing. I know it sounds a little woo-woo. You're going to find today that I'm more of the woo-woo side of things, but getting outside. All right. So it's very important with your health to get out and get some natural vitamin D, which is through the sunshine. And by getting out and grounding or earthing, which means literally putting your bare feet on the earth's surface, whatever that may be, grass preferably, concrete, but getting outside, looking out at the vista, feeling the sun on your body. I always tell my kids, especially after we've traveled and after we're on an airplane, that you need to get down on the ground, toes in the sand, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, feet in the grass and earth. And it's supposed to connect you and sort of recalibrate your system. So that's something I think that's easy for people to do at home. You can just head outside. What about you?
Interesting.
Do you have anything that you do on the daily that helps with your health for some hacking?
Yeah, mine's pretty basic, not too esoteric or anything. I take a nap, a power nap. So that's my thing, as a power nap. And that could be, just quickly after lunch, literally 10, sometimes 5, if I'm lucky, 20 minutes if I have the time in the day, or, I can shuffle my schedule. Depends. Working from home, it's a little bit easier now during a lunch break to just pop in a power nap. But I remember our grandmother, our Italian grandmother, she lived to 95, and we asked her, what's the secret? What's the secret to life? And one of the things she said is, I take a nap every day. I take a little nap, and it revitalizes me and re-energizes me and helps me through the day. And I think that is very truthful, and I found it to be incredible. And within a short period of time, I can close my eyes and jump into a dream state, and wake up a completely new reality and be like, okay, let's do this. Grab a coffee and go, ready for the afternoon. So that's kind of been mine. Another thing I do is exercise daily, even if it's just a, walk for 30 minutes. And I also have my daily juice regimen. I make a juice with, fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables, and some protein powder, and drink that every day after a workout. And hey, that helps me, again, feel healthy. And if I miss a day of my juice, I don't feel as good. So, that juice is very helpful. Was there anything else for you, Heather, that you wanted to add on your daily regimen?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of things that I do, but I want to say our sweet grandmother, our sweet Rena, this little Italian Spitfire, and I often look back on memories of her, and I wish she was here so that we could interview her today about all of the lifestyle things that she did. And I don't think it was conscious. And I think that her generation, it wasn't that they were like, I'm doing this to be healthy. Like, I just think that was the way of life. And I wish that we could interview her today to get more of her beautiful little hacks, like the daily nap. And I also wish that I could nap daily. I am not a napper. I try. I know that people can do it, but I cannot. So I envy that you can lay down during the day and just... I can't. So, but other daily hacks.
I don't know where that came from, but I've been doing it for a very long time. Whenever I had the opportunity. I think it was in college, actually, because I would stay up all night studying. And then during the day, I'd be so tired, I'd go to the library and just lay my head down and take a quick nap.
Nice. Well, I'll be filling you in, I'm sure, on more of my little daily hacks because, as we'll get into, I have quite a few of them, and some of them people are going to think is maybe a little woo-woo. And I don't care because they're what works for me and my family. But I think today's episode, we are getting into talking about basically our wellness in spite of a broken medical system. Yes, and this may be a little controversial, but again, we are not afraid to jump up on this and get controversial. This is what this show is all about. So, Tristan, I wanted to ask you, when we look at our medical system and I say being broken, what's something that stands out for you that you've experienced in your life or with, being a parent, with our system being a little broken?
I think one of the most challenging things is making a doctor appointment and scheduling it. So one of the, you would think would be a simple task, but this whole idea in our medical system that we have to first go see a primary care physician, and then we need to get a referral, and then we need to wait to get that referral approved, and then we need to get an appointment. And, I don't really care where you stand in terms of, do we need universal health care? Should be privatized like it has been, for all these years? At the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing. It's like, okay, I need to go see a doctor and I need to get into them as soon as possible. I know elderly people who have waited months and months and sometimes even a year to get in for a surgery, a knee, a hip, or it could even be a life-saving surgery, an insurance approval and all of those things. So again, I could go on and on about all the complexities and challenges that are required just to make a simple doctor appointment. And I think it's just absolutely absurd. And again, I don't care where you are on the spectrum politically or how you agree with, socialism or, whatever you think it should be. It should not be this hard. I think we can all agree you need to go see a doctor. You want to be healthy. You should be able to go see a doctor. And we can go down that rabbit hole of all the reasons why it is the way it is. But I just think we all want that same thing. And that to me is mind-boggling. I just don't understand why it is so complicated to see a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what about
same.
you, Heather?
Yeah. And I think we have touched on this before, but I want to know if anyone else has seen this. There seems to be a shortage of doctors. Like, what is going on? I used to be able to call in, and I feel very blessed and privileged to have health insurance and to have what they consider good health insurance. But to make a doctor's appointment that I used to be able to get, within the month, it's like 4 or 5 months out. And especially with having a child with special needs or children with medical issues, to get into a specialist, I cannot believe what's happened now. And I don't know, did our doctors go away after 2020? Did they retire? I think a lot of them might have, but that is part of the system that I am getting frustrated with because I actually don't go to the doctor very much. So when I go, it's like I know exactly what I need. I know why I'm going, and the frustration of not being able to get in with them. And then I have a second frustration with the system, and that is if I seek, because like I said, when I say woo-woo, I mean that in the best form. And it's somebody who looks at things beyond what the mainstream medical system offers. I look at alternative medicine and alternative healing, and to be able to go to someone who is not like a general practitioner through my insurance, a lot of times a naturopathic doctor, which is someone who's more holistic, they won't cover at all. So I pay out of pocket for that, but I can get into them. I can get the tests that I want to have done, but it costs me an arm and a leg versus if I go to my regular insurance and I go to through my regular insurance and I go to my doctor, I can immediately be offered every pharmaceutical product that I want. If I just go in and I'm like, I'm having a little back pain. Oh, you want something for that? You want some muscle relaxers? You want this and this? No, I actually would like to go to acupuncture, which with my insurance, we get acupuncture, thankfully. But I recently ran into the issue of I had a muscle issue in my hip. And the acupuncturist actually diagnosed it and was treating it, and I was getting relief. And then he came back to me and said, actually, your insurance company is not paying what they used to pay. And I had this huge copay then after these sessions that were actually working, and I had to opt not to go anymore. And that blows my mind because I can go get all of these other treatments covered by my insurance, but something that's actually working and something that's effective, I can't get fully covered. And it actually, I don't think it costs them that much in the big picture. So I don't understand. Yes, that's my soapbox moment about that.
Yeah, let's touch on that a little bit. And I would love to hear from anyone that works in the medical field to try to understand better why there is a shortage of doctors right now. Why is it that it's so incredibly challenging? And, we're in California. I don't know if that's different than anywhere else, but I'm hearing this in places, where we have family in Michigan, Washington State, Utah. All these different places where they are facing the same challenges. Why is that? Where are the doctors? Do they not make enough money nowadays so that no one's going into the field? Are they overwhelmed because our population
they make a lot of money.
I don't know. I mean, is it like the school teacher thing where all the money's taken at the top and the school teachers are asking for pens and pencils and Kleenex donations? I mean, what the hell's going on here? I would love to know. Is anyone have insight? Please share with us because I really want to know, where are they? And then when we talk about insurance, privatized insurance is a joke. And if there's anyone out there that can give me the argument of why and how we benefit from privatized insurance, I want to hear it. I really do.
Well, what are you saying? Like the difference between privatized insurance and what do they call that when it's the other countries have?
Like universal healthcare, socialized medicine, right? An example is, so I was in Brazil and I was injured, scraped my leg, cut it open, with a rusty old pipe or something when I was,
when
I was out in the jungle doing some exploring. One of the venture expeditions.
Wait, what? You have to tell us more about that story.
Anyway, that's another story. Anyway, so I was injured and I needed to see a doctor. And of course, go into the hospital and, hey, I'm not a citizen. Oh, no problem. Come right in. I think I waited, 5-10 minutes. Had to do just a couple little bit of paperwork. Very minimal. Nothing like the doctors here. Go in, get my tetanus shot just to make sure I'm good. They clean the wound. They fix me up. And they're like, hey, do you need anything else? Do you want a, influenza shot? Do you need, shingles? Offering me all the medical attention. Anything for allergies? I told them I have seasonal allergies. Do you need anything? Well, no, I don't, what do I owe you? What's the bill? No, you don't know. Well, I'm not a citizen. How could this be free?
Oh, you didn't pay anything?
No, you don't pay.
Wow.
Have a good day. They're like, obrigado. Thank you. Like, wow. What? Wait, the greatest nation in the world called the United States doesn't have something as simple as this? Yeah. Why? And I want to hear the argument. I want to hear why people disagree with that. Because really quick, I just have to say this. People have run the numbers and they've come up, and please tell me if you have sources that say otherwise. I really want to hear it. But the latest thing I heard is if everyone paid $2,000 a year, every U.S. citizen, $2,000 a year, we could all have universal medical coverage. We wouldn't have to go through insurance programs. We wouldn't have to go through rigmarole. We'd have universal health care like other countries, which seem to be doing just fine. And we'd be good. I mean, how much does private insurance cost?
Right. But I wonder, and I'm just throwing this out there, this is not something that I usually speak about, not politics, but I wonder if we did that on a sliding scale too. Like based on your income, you contribute more. If you make above this bracket, you contribute more to, the health and wellness of the collective. And then if you make less, you still contribute for universal, right, healthcare. But do other countries do that? Is that how they work, or does everyone pay into it with their taxes? Is that how it works in Canada? Sorry, guys. I know some Canadians.
And please chime in here and inform us with your expertise if you have that. Let us know, how is it done in other countries? Because my understanding is, yes, you just pay in your taxes and everyone, contributes whatever the amount in their tax bracket. The argument here in the United States is, it'll never work in capitalism. Capitalism is, it's all about, we drive forward progress and innovation when, we make things in a society or a financial institution where you can make money, therefore, but it's not true. That's a false narrative. It's completely not true. And the argument against, universal health care is that, why am I paying for the people who don't make more money? Why am I paying more? Same thing with taxes. Why do I have to pay more? But you know what? Stop being so selfish. And if you make a little more money, chip in, help out. What's the big deal? Why are you so greedy that you can't share a little more? Are you really that
Yeah.
greedy? Do you really need that much more that you're going to take away from, a person who's less wealthy, who has, less opportunity, and blame it on them? You're going to try to call them lazy or whatever because they weren't born into a system of generational wealth or whatever it is that supports them. I mean, I could go on and on. And again, I want to hear the different arguments of for or against universal healthcare, because I think we're at a time where we've been completely taken advantage of by these insurance companies, and people are, they go bankrupt with medical bills. And we saw this with our own mother fighting breast cancer. Her medical bills were insane. They were astronomical, and it was ridiculous. And she had great insurance, and it was
she had insurance. Yep.
She had insurance, and they were, fighting us tooth and nail to not pay things. They didn't want to pay it. They didn't want to do this. They didn't want to do that. And, I have a lot of Republican friends, and the funny thing is, against universal health care, they have insurance, right? Where do they go for their health care? I have Republican friends who head down to Mexico to get their kids' dental work done because their insurance won't cover it and because it's so much cheaper. They head down there to get the prescription drugs because it's so much cheaper and easier. You don't need a prescription. You just walk in. You go see a doctor there. It's quick. It's easy. You don't have to deal with all the nonsense of, I got to make an appointment. It's going to be 6 months away, blah, blah, blah. Again, one of the reasons that we have medical tourism, people are traveling abroad. I have another friend who, well-to-do, and as soon as he found out his mother had cancer, they didn't stick around the United States for our wonderful healthcare. They went to Europe. They went to Asia. They went everywhere else to seek a cure because they knew in the United States, we don't have it. And yet here we are pretending we're the greatest nation. We have all this great healthcare. We have all this great medicine, these great doctors, but we don't. So stop buying into the nonsense, the bullshit, and the lie, because it's a lie. It's a straight up lie. And we've been lied to as the American people by these big pharma companies, the medical industry, to believe that, it's so good here. We have it so good. We should just be grateful. No, we don't. It's bullshit. And it's time to stand up and say no. Okay. That's my time.
That's
Soapbox.
That's what we're about, though. That's what we want people to jump on. But I mean, I can personally speak on healthcare outside of our country in two instances. I lived in Mexico for over a year. And in Mexico, that is the first taste. And I'm sure a lot of people who have traveled to Mexico, the first taste I got of, you don't have to have a prescription for your medication. You walk into the pharmacia and you tell them, and usually, and a doctor appointment there, so much more affordable. And I used to think, well, maybe their doctors aren't as knowledgeable, or maybe there's something different about their system. I don't think that's the case. I got great care there. And I would just walk into a clinic and they would just literally, not a prescription, but just write down, here's what you need to go tell them. You go there, you grab it. It's super cheap. And then again, I question well, maybe it's not the real deal. No, it's made by the same pharmaceutical manufacturers, packaged a little bit differently, and so much more affordable. And then also in Korea, I lived in Korea for a while. And there, I remember going to my first acupuncture appointments, and you didn't have to have a referral. It wasn't this red tape stuff that we have. You go in, you get your acupuncture, they prescribe some herbs, and it was like $15 copay. Now, granted, this was over 20 years ago, but still, compared to like $100 copay that I do here in the States for acupuncture. And by the way, I am glad, though, that they're recognizing acupuncture and chiropractics. Our insurance actually covers those, because that's actually unusual, I think. But yeah, so other countries, their systems. But I do want to say this about Canada, because I have some Canadian friends who have spoken about universal health care there. So some are pro and some are con. And part of the con for people has been, well, you don't understand the wait times for care, for surgeries, because there's such a wait list. A backlog. And so they have to wait a long time to get surgeries. Or when they do go into the clinics for their care, there's a super long wait. So I have heard that negative side of things. I don't know how it is now. This is years ago. So any Canadian friends out there, please comment, speak on it, because I would also love to know. I mean, it sounds like we all just want to fill in the gaps here of what is really going on in the world. We see only this much here in the States, especially with our system. And a lot of people, this is our system. This is how we do it. Unless you have lived outside or visited outside or have friends outside of the US, sometimes you're just like, well, this is the way that it is. Whatever happened to, I want to say this, whatever happened to like a family doctor too? Like a family doctor that your whole family could go to. from the time your kids are babies up until you're like, old in your 90s. Not saying that's old, but what happened to the family doctor? You cannot find one anymore. I would have loved to have had one doctor that our whole family goes to, and it's just like that comfort person, and they know you and they know your family and they can spend time with you. Not a thing anymore. So frustrating. And the pediatrician's office, that can be it. Anyway, unless you find a really good pediatrician, I guess. But one issue that I have now is that you go in to see your doctor, a general practitioner, and literally I have waited 45 minutes for them, right? Their big patient caseload that they must have to make us wait this long. Fine, I'll wait. But then I get 15 or 20 minutes with them. 15 or 20 minutes to go over everything. And I've literally had a doctor say when my son was in recently for his whole physical, we'll have to continue this to another appointment because I have to get to my next patient. And I was like, I just waited almost an hour for you. And now you have to go on to the next patient after giving us 20 minutes. I literally looked at the clock when he came in and timed it. And this is at a reputable, facility. That part is super frustrating to me. I get it. The doctors need to get to the next patient. They have a lot of patients, and maybe it's the shortage that we were talking about, but it's so frustrating because they cannot, and this will lead into another aspect of this today. I don't think that they can really look into the root cause of issues when it comes to our health. They're just basically ticking off all the boxes, running all the tests, prescribing what they need to prescribe. And by the way, doctors, do you get a kickback for whatever you prescribe? I'm so curious about that because, again, I can get immediate access to things and get prescription drugs for things that I didn't even ask for, or tests that I didn't even ask for, nor do I think I need. But they'll immediately offer all of that to me. And I'm like, why is that? Do you get some sort of a kickback from this? Yeah. So I don't know if that's just a frustration of mine or if other people have faced the same thing about this minuscule amount of time with a doctor and not looking at your deeper issues or trying to understand what may have caused some of your health issues.
Right. And one of the things, so I remember, I don't know when this was exactly, probably when I was a teenager, we would go to the doctor and you'd say, oh, I have this or that. They would literally go into the cabinet in the room and have all the prescription medicines in sample packets. And they would load up a little bag for you and hand you, here's Claritin D. Boom, this is on us, and it'd be the first round or whatever. This one's on us. And if you want to get, start on that, particular drug, then we'll get your prescription and get you going. But it was almost like, I don't know what you would compare this to, the drug dealer, where they're like, hey,
open up the coat.
Yeah, this one's on us. And then if you like it, we'll charge you. Kind of strange. But what you're saying about the family doctor is so interesting because, yes, it's become super hyper specialized medicine, right? And not only whatever happened to the family doctor, what happened to the house call doctor that our parents and our grandparents enjoyed? Hey, you're sick at home? You had a doctor that would come to the house. Where is that? Where's that extra care? Where's that doctor who, they only had the amount of patients they could care for, and then they would go around and make sure that their families and their patients were well taken care of. Is it just our population's booming too much? Do we have too many people in the world that we can't, take care of them all? We're charging a lot of money for all of this. You think that, there would be some kind of incentive to, okay, let's get more doctors going. Let's, help with the system.
It's all money. Our wealthy friends out there, are there any of you? There is concierge service available with doctors. My kids, we had a pediatrician's office that was considered concierge, and I paid an annual fee to them. And I did this. My disclaimer here is I had 3 kids who each had medical issues. So I wanted the top care that I could get. I wanted to be able to get into a pediatrician's office within a week of being needing the appointment, whereas all the other pediatricians were booked and I couldn't get them in. I needed immediate care. It was the one time, though, that I felt it was really worth this annual fee was they actually did come to our house one time. They made a house call for my son when he was sick, and I was blown away by that. Had we been able to continue that, financially, that would make the most sense. But that is one of those things. I think concierge service is still a thing, but it's just not accessible to most of us, right?
Right.
So much today.
Yep. Oh, so a couple things before we move on. First, I would love to hear from our audience, anyone out there who could share their experience with the medical system in terms of, who's your doctor? How long have you been with that doctor? How easy is it to get an appointment? How easy is it to get care approved? How easy is it to get the medications or alternative medicine if you request it? I would just love to hear a little bit more about those experiences from our audience. And moving on, so unless you had anything else to add for that, Heather.
No, I think we've said enough about the broken medical system. So that may lead into what we want to talk about next. I'll let you.
Yeah, well, really quick, I do have to say, okay, so a couple things. There was a documentary, it was almost 20 years ago, called Sicko by Michael Moore, which if you haven't seen it, go watch it because 20 years ago, guys, and it's still so incredibly relevant, which is just crazy. That
give us a synopsis. Tell us a little bit about it, because I've seen it, but maybe a lot of people haven't.
Yeah, he just goes through our medical system in our country and then compares it to medical systems and how they function abroad in other countries and trying to understand why it's broken, how it's broken. And he does it in a very unique way. And I won't give it away because I think it is an important documentary to see. And it's been a while since I've seen it as well. So I'm probably not up to speed on all of the details. But one of the things that hit me, of course, was that a lot of other countries practice preventative medicine. In this country, we focus so much on the treatment. Here we are. I go to my doctor like, hey, what's wrong? Oh, take these drugs, boom, boom, boom. Go to your pharmacy, take the pills, take the drugs, you'll be better. But nothing about, wait, what's causing this? What's the cause of this? And another thing that floored me in that documentary was seeing how Europeans, they're mandated time off during sickness, for maternity leave. Employers are mandated to have their employees take a month off. You don't
holiday.
Get a choice.
Holiday, yes, we don't get that.
You know that, Heather. You saw them visit when you worked in Mexico. People from all over the world, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm on my paid required holiday that I have to take for a month every year so that way I can reset, recalibrate, be healthy, to just recharge and get back to a healthier self, a healthier mindset. And we don't have that in this country. You're lucky if you have an employer that you've been able to keep a job long enough that lets you have a week paid vacation, maybe two. Those benefits aren't there anymore. And so, yes, we just live in a society. And again, Americans, hello, wake up. Anybody out there, please chime in. How is it beneficial? How's it beneficial? You like working yourself to death like a slave and then taking big pharma meds, which by the way, you look up big pharma and opioid crisis and all the lawsuits that have gone through in the past and the unhealthiness of our country. Is that the answer? Or do we go back to what's causing us to be so sick? What's causing us to have all these health problems? What's causing Americans to be one of the most unhealthy nations in the world? What
exactly?
Is it? We can go into that, Heather, because I know this is your topic.
No, but it's yours too. It's everybody's topic. It's just whether or not we want to just kind of take off the rose-colored glasses of I live in this healthy country, and yet we are some of the sickest people on the planet, and we have the best access to health care. This is what drives me mad. So I'm glad we're shedding light on this today.
And we say we have the best access to healthcare, but do we? I think we need to question it because do we? Oh, it's so bad over there. You got to wait in line in Canada or whatever. But it's like, well, wait in line. You're waiting here too. It's just how you frame it. It's the lens you're looking through because the propaganda machine will make you think like, oh, well, there you got to wait and well, here it's like, holy shit, it's hard to get into your primary care physician. And then after that, you got to get the referral. And then after that, you have to go through so many hoops. It's taking just the same amount of time, I'm sure, if not longer. And please, Canadians or anyone out there, chime in. Let's hear your side of the story because I want to know, is it really that bad? If you have been a person with dual citizenship or whatever and lived in both countries, I would love to hear. If you're an expat from another country, I would love to hear your story. How is it here compared to in your home country? And moving on, we can go into the preventative medicine or preventative, healthy aspect. So that way we're not dependent on medical system as much, because I think in this country, the whole medical system becomes bogged down with a lot of sick people. Now, with a society that's sick and has a lot of health problems, guess what? Your insurance rates are all going to go up because suddenly you have to treat and and take care of more people. Whereas if you had preventative medicine and time off and all those things that prevented people from getting sick, maybe your insurance rates wouldn't be so high, guys, because you're not paying to treat a bunch of sick people. Maybe if we were a healthier society and we embraced exercise and healthy foods and better eating, we wouldn't be so screwed with this medical system that's taking a huge amount of our wages, that you're dependent on a shitty job just to get medical insurance, because how else are you going to afford it when it's $500 to $600 a person per month? It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk.
But my dear
Heather.
brother, wait, but if they looked at root causes, if they talked about preventative medicine, where would their lifetime customers go? We become their lifelong customers if we are sick, if we are dependent on those things. That's what it essentially, I see it, you see it, I'm sure a lot of people see it. It is unfortunately all about the money and not about the health and well-being of the human race.
And that's so interesting you brought that up. So there's this brother and sister duo like us, Callie and Casey Means. They wrote a book, and I don't know the title of the book offhand, but we can put it in the comments. And they did an interview with Tucker Carlson where they did a deep dive into our food being unhealthy and how basically the system's set up. They think it's totally rigged, where our medical system is dependent on people getting sick by a toxic food environment, where we're just constantly filling ourselves with toxic food, makes us sick. And then, yeah, like you said, we are the customers. You don't want your customers to be well. It's like being an auto repair person. You don't want a car that doesn't break down or that doesn't need its oil changed, right? Or need a battery replaced if it's an electric vehicle, or need constant service with brakes and everything. It's like free energy. If 0 Point Energy was out and about, guess what happens to oil companies? They're gone. So yeah, you don't want people to be healthy, and not to get conspiratorial, but these are the real deals, guys. And guess what? If we were healthy, they couldn't charge us that much, because suddenly they would need us more than we need them.
Yes, it's true. And that, you'll find on our episodes, I do not like to get political. I do not. However, I do want to touch on the fact that that's one thing when we talk about this whole concept of make America healthy again with RFK Jr., love him, hate him, whatever. Okay, I don't care about the controversy of that. What I'm looking at is, show me the money. Like, show me the. No, what is that from? Oh, Jerry Maguire. Like,
Jerry Maguire.
Freaking just show me the proof that you're going to do what you're going to do. And so far, by, having these companies remove the dyes and the artificial colors from our foods that are mainly targeted to our children, bravo. That's a tiny step that other countries already do. When you compare like a cereal box from Europe and a cereal box from here, and you see all the crazy crap that we put into ours that they don't have. Yes, if he's doing that, if he's removing some of this toxic crap and slowly chipping away at that, great. However else you feel about him, okay, we don't have to get into today. But let's hope that he is going to take a step towards making us healthier. Maybe.
Yes, Heather. And I get really passionate about this, and I do politicize it. And you're absolutely right. I need to step back. And we all do. We all do, Heather. No, listen, the trap, the trick, we're taking the bait when we make it political, because that's what they want us to do, to point the finger. Oh, it's them. It's them. It's them.
Yeah.
Right.
Divide.
They can just keep pointing the finger. Democrats point at Republicans, Republicans point at Democrats. Oh, it's their fault. It's their fault. And then the new regime comes in, and it's the same shit. It never changes, and it hasn't for how many years, ever since we started privatized medicine. Go back to Nixon. Again, we have to stop taking the bait as Americans, because we have to understand that what we want is probably all the same. We want good health care. We want treatment. We want to be healthy. And going back to the food thing that you brought up, and I think it's great that RFK is doing that. I don't like the guy. I think he's a little wacko, but hey, I do respect that. If he's doing something in the right direction, sure. But other things I don't agree with. And that's where, again, I have to remove my political bias and say, look, man, sometimes you got to swallow your pride. Sometimes you can't be the hypocrite and let your ego drive you and say, oh, but I'm on this political side. I'm on that political side. That doesn't agree with all the Kool-Aid I'm drinking. No, bullshit. You got to call yourself on your bullshit. You got to say, you know what? I got to step back and look at the big picture here. because like the food thing, look at the foods that are banned in other countries. I think it's like Cheez-Its, which all the kids eat. Fish crackers and Cheez-Its are like banned in half of the European countries, or maybe more. Look at school
Right.
lunches.
Oh my
right?
gosh, yes.
Again, this is just contract-based nonsense. Lowest bidder with the highest crap that they can feed our kids. And then you look at other countries and what they feed their kids. Is it all this processed food? And we can go into that. The processed foods in this country are the toxic stuff that's making us sick. Okay.
Yeah.
We're bought into a system of like energy drinks and all these things that we can buy, these flavored whatever and processed foods that are heavily, heavily processed and not fresh, and making it more expensive to purchase the healthy foods and less expensive to purchase the junk food that makes you sick. So yeah, they're going to make money on the back end when you're sick, and they're like, hey, we got them.
Yeah. And it becomes a life of convenience, and that's what they're promoting, right? We're working our asses off in this country. We don't even have time to prepare proper meals and to sit down together, nor afford a lot of them, and actually make meal times something that's about something relaxed and something nourishing and what it's supposed to be. It's go, 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 because that's what we're promoting. And here, let's make it really easy. Buy this, package this, throw this in the microwave. And I'm not perfect. I'm not that mom who always cooks every single meal. We have convenient foods around here. But it is interesting if you go look at those labels, and we can get into that too, the crap that they put into our foods, especially compared to other countries who are, even what is it? McDonald's in other countries actually has healthier ingredients than our McDonald's. Sorry, McDonald's. I don't mean to like bash you, but I know.
Oh, it's absolutely true. I've been to McDonald's in several countries, and it's a completely different menu. And I'm sure the source of their foods, for their beef and everything are completely different than here.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. And, another thing is, and it kind of goes back to our small town that we grew up in, right? We had the butcher, the baker, and the dairy farm to get your milk. And when I was in Brazil, every couple of days, a member of the family would go out and get the fresh bread, because their bread, if you didn't eat it in a couple of days, it would mold or get stale and hard.
Right?
My bread, Heather, that I buy every week and I pack my sandwiches, if I buy it from my local regular big box grocery store, it never molds.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And look, if you
What's
ever
in
buy
that, Heather?
Right?
Wait,
the preservatives. If you ever buy organic produce, we buy organic produce in my house, and you have to be careful because it goes bad easily. Or I grow my own. I do hydroponic gardening. I don't grow my own fruits, but I grow a lot of our vegetables and herbs. And again, you take it off of the stand that I have it on, and it will go bad. It will mold. It will go bad. Whereas others, I don't know what they put, like they coat some of these fruits and vegetables with that aren't organic, but they last much longer. And not just, bread as well. Like I bake my own sourdough bread. And if you don't eat it within a week or even like 4 or 5 days, like it will start to get moldy if you don't put it in the fridge and properly care for it. It's alive. It's real. Whereas what the hell is this other crap?
Right. And so, we're talking about the toxic food system that we have in this country. And one of the things that Callie and Casey Means brought up, that brother and sister team, was a solution would be, go to your local farmer's market and purchase fresh, locally grown food, hopefully, or go to a store like Sprouts or your local, health food store that you have in your neighborhood or in your area, and try to do that. But it's expensive.
I was just going to say that. Yes.
It's not as convenient. Now, is that intentional? Maybe. I don't know. Was there a time when it was easier, or when you didn't have the convenience choice, or when you didn't have a chip aisle that's an entire aisle in a store of just processed chips, and then you go down the cracker aisle, it's an entire aisle. Then you got the cookie aisle. I mean, you look at the stuff in our stores, the majority of the middle of a regular grocery store is all processed crap. Then you go over, your vegetables are on the right, your meat and your bakeries on the, it's like, wait, okay. And those foods and things are definitely not as fresh as they once were. No. And they're imported from other countries, and, things aren't locally grown anymore. And I think there's definitely been a bit of a shift to organic and all that, the pushback against GMOs and everything, trying to, but then I wonder, is it just being disguised as organic, put a sticker on it, put it in there.
Mm.
You know, I'm sure
Yeah,
certain sources you can trust more than others, but
yes.
who knows? And yeah, I think if you have the means, which is money and time, go to the
Yep.
farmer's market. But again, if you're a family, if you're a single parent, if you're working your ass off just to make ends meet, do you really have time to go to the farmer's market and then whip up a beautiful, meal for your family that night? It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're working yourself to death. You get your kids' activities. And again,
Well,
it's
and the financial
frustrating.
side of that, the financial side, if you look at the programs, is it the WIC program? What we used to label as food stamps. We're talking from a place that we aren't in that, but I know that during the pandemic, our family was offered, I guess they were like cards that had, I think it was like the WIC program, EBT or something, for our 3 kids. And it was interesting. They came loaded up. So it was our first experience with that. But the things that I could buy versus what I could not buy when it came to like the healthy foods, I did not understand that. And we were buying online at the time because grocery stores, it was hard to get out to them. But I remember buying from online. I couldn't find anything organic. I couldn't find anything that didn't have all of these seed oils and preservatives and gluten, the things that we don't eat. But I could buy a bunch of garbage. And I remember there was an amount on it where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to buy with this. And it was around Halloween. And I'm like, Halloween candy? I could buy loads of Halloween candy with this money. And that to me is just a crime, because if we're in that place of need and they're giving us, this wonderful program for it, but I can't buy healthy foods with it, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, people complain about government assistance and all this stuff. Well, if you really want to make a fuss about it, why don't you make a fuss about what you can purchase with that money? Because who has their palms being greased and who's getting kickbacks when you can use those EBT, WIC, whatever the food program is, to go to fast food. Fast food,
Yeah.
Heather, they all take those cards.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. So you can't buy the healthy stuff, but you can go get fast food.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you could get fast food.
Oh,
But
yeah.
can you get healthier versions of fast food with that? Like, can you go to places like Chipotle and will they take those cards?
I mean, maybe, but if I go through the drive-thru with my kid, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, you want a salad or you want the Happy Meal with the toy?"
Wait,
Talk
I have to
about
tell
marketing.
I have to tell a story about my kids when they were really little. And can I say the name of the place? Like, whatever, shadow ban me, cancel me. No, but we didn't eat out at too many places because I was trying to be healthy. And let me just say this, it's because we had a lot of health issues with all 3 of my kids. I had health issues. So we were trying, even back when they were little, to make better choices. But I remember going to McDonald's drive-thru for the first time with my kids because they had asked about Happy Meals. They see this, they see their friends getting it. And so I got them each a Happy Meal. Shout out to In-N-Out Burger because that's where my kids love to eat. And I feel like they're a little bit better. But my middle son, he took his hamburger and he loves In-N-Out. To this day, he still loves In-N-Out. But he tried a McDonald's hamburger and he went to take a bite and he was probably like 2 years old. And he went like this with his face. He took the patty off and he flung it across the minivan and just wanted to eat the bun because it didn't taste real. There was something that he didn't like. And my kids never liked McDonald's, interestingly. But think about how many kids, that's all they know, right? Oh, okay, here's one more. Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. Should I even say that? Okay. In a children's hospital, as a parent who has spent time in children's hospitals, grateful for their care. They're amazing. Cannot say enough about them. But what restaurant could I find in those hospitals? McDonald's. And I remember sitting there going, this is the food that you're feeding people, kids who are sick, but also parents who are trying to themselves just keep their heads above water to care for their, sick children. This is what is available to me at this hospital. I could not get over that. And I still, to this day, I'm sure it's about money and sponsorship and all those things. And grateful for their help with these hospitals. However, that's what I'm hoping as we look at Make America Healthy again, that we can look at what's in even our fast food and make some changes to that, because I understand that we need it and the convenience, and that's important to our society, but let's at least give us some better options.
Right. I do want to say one thing about, Make America Healthy again, and that is I want to relate it to my own experience and probably your experience as well. We both came from a small town, and once that town kind of shifted away from the local farms providing food for the local residents, it moved to, Piggly Wiggly and these other grocery stores. And then we were dependent on those grocery stores. Well, if I'm in a small town in middle America, I know they're not going to have Sprouts. They're probably not going to have Trader Joe's. They're going to have one or two grocery stores that are nearby where I can buy my groceries. And then they're going to have, a Sonic or some kind of burger stand or, maybe a couple other food choices. You're very limited. And a lot of the farmers, they export their food. Their food, doesn't stay there. We ship it abroad because we can get more money from other countries. And then ironically, we import, stuff that can be grown here from other countries. It's almost like this backwards thing. So maybe that is a little bit of the Maha movement where we should maybe start, eating the food that we produce or produce enough to sustain our own people. I get the global economy thing, but the biggest point I'm trying to make here is that it is so hard to be healthy when you live in a small town or a rural area where you don't have all of those stores that is like California. I remember you and we moved from Washington to California. And at that time, we were kind of blown away by the healthy lifestyle of people. Everyone was exercising every day. They were out. They were doing activities. They looked fit. They looked healthy. They talked about eating salads at lunch, all these really healthy things. And we came from, the burger, pizza, soda, you get the 2 liters on the kid's birthday and stack them up at the tables. And, everyone's drinking soda at the pizza parlor. You know what I mean, Heather? We came from that very simple-minded, didn't broaden our spectrum to think, oh, what's healthy? What's good? How's this going to help us later in life if we eat healthy and treat our bodies right? We came from, a little more limited access to information and to food. Maybe that's changing now. But I think in this movement,
it's shifting.
Okay, I hope in this movement of making America healthy again is that we're also going to implement some kind of a food supply system to provide healthy foods to the country, and we're not just dependent on processed foods that's in a package or in a box or that you heat up in a microwave. Maybe something that's, what is it, Blue Apron? What was that company where you could have pre-made meals delivered to you and you could cook them? I remember people were doing that I worked with. Maybe something like that.
But not be so expensive. Like most of us can't afford that. It's a luxury to have something like that. It's ridiculous.
And again, herein lies the issue. How do we make it affordable? Anyone out there have a genius idea of how we can make this work? Because if we keep going down this road, the thing with childhood diabetes on the increase, and they're finding right now colon cancer in young kids, like all these energy drinks and shit that kids are drinking. I remember I worked with a guy on the job young guy, drank energy drinks all day. Well, next thing you know, he starts pissing blood. Well, guess what? He goes to the doctor. He's like, hey, what's wrong? He said, oh, do you drink energy drinks? Yeah. Oh, yeah, those cause gallstone issues in your bladder. Oh. And yeah, he said, I'm seeing that a lot now. So stop the energy drinks. You'll probably heal. You'll be fine. And so another thing that's been happening here, I don't know if it's a local thing in Southern California, but are these Taki chips, right? Super spicy Taki chips. Takis! Everyone wants to eat Takis.
The kids want Takis!
Yeah, and I tried them. I'm like, holy shit, that's hot. I'm gringo here.
I've never had them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're horrible. Well, there was a time when all the kids were eating them, right? Like crazy, and they still do. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like a competition at lunch, who could eat the most, who could eat Takis. Well, we went to our pediatrician and we're talking about diet and everything for our son. And she's, we mentioned, Takis. She's like, no, one of the number one things they're seeing young kids for now in the ER is from eating Takis.
Wait, what would send them to the ER? Like what?
Stomach ulcers.
Oh my God.
In children.
Dang.
Young kids. Our son was 4, 5, like really young.
Dang.
We were like, OMG. And we immediately were like, nope. And we just started super restricting his diet, making sure that we have healthier choices. Funny thing is now, Dad here every now and then would go to McDonald's, let's go to McDonald's. I'll get my filet
Your filet of fish.
Hypocrite. But I did on occasion. It's my comfort food, Heather. It's my
No,
comfort food.
and let me just preface this by saying we can all have like, our treats and our moments. If like we need that as humans, right? Like their comfort food or things that you're like, yeah, I need a glass of wine or something. Like it's not bad if it's in moderation, but go ahead.
Moderation is key. Well, so funny. I would take our son and he would come with me. And yeah, we were doing that, for a while there. When we lived in our small town and we didn't have a lot of places to go, we'd every now and then, he and I would get McDonald's. Well, then there came a time when he's like, I don't like McDonald's anymore. I don't like, see, he heard us talking about how unhealthy things were. And now he will not eat fast food even.
Oh,
He's
that's
so
my nephew.
anti-fast food.
Yes.
He's like, not eating that. Like, wow, okay. But I am. No. Kid's smarter
I'll leave
than
you
me.
home and I'll go get it.
Yeah, this kid's smarter than me.
That's so
but
funny.
It's good. But yeah, it's moderation, Heather. That's the key.
Yeah. I on Takis, let me talk about Takis. But that also leads me to this whole thing about red dye 40. That's one of the dyes. So this was our personal experience with artificial colors and dyes in foods because I had started to read the link between those and like ADHD. And so we were kind of doing an experiment in our family. I remember specifically one time we had pulled Doritos. My kids loved, Doritos. And there was another chip that had red dye in it that I didn't know. I was just letting them have some Doritos. And my oldest loved Doritos. So we pulled them for a long time. And I remember one day we went to the aquarium with Grandpa and he was like, I really want Doritos. And he was young. So I'm like, okay, and he ate them. And literally within 5 minutes, you could just see like the shift in his eyes. And he started like bouncing off we were in the restaurant at the aquarium. He's like bouncing. And you could just tell it was like something started short circuiting in his brain. And he said to me, I feel weird. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is our firsthand experience with how quickly this can affect his brain. And it's one of the biggest frustrations as a parent of a child with special needs, because even in high school, they always have parties and things like that where everyone brings food or they offer that as incentives for people with special needs. The crap that they're offering, though, and there are other moms and I who are all on the same page where we're like, if you stopped feeding them these things, especially with these dyes in them, like I have in my son's IEP, one of the accommodations is he cannot have foods with artificial colors. And I think for a while, people were questioning, like, what the heck is she? But now they're seeing there's actually this correlation. And if we pulled that, I think teachers would see better behavior in classes. I think parents would see better behavior. And it's not the kids' fault. They have no idea. And wow, how attractive is something, that color red is that's why it's the color for a lot of restaurants, right? It's supposed to attract us to it and make it more appetizing. And think about that as you're putting this in your mouth. But what is making that color? So again, going back to making us healthier, if we pull that, there are ways. You're not going to get that bright red color, but you use beets in your coloring, and it will help if that's what makes it look more appetizing. But that was just an interesting experiment, family experiment that we did.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to recognize with what you were telling us about the Dorito story is how the food affects mental health and how our children are probably the biggest indicator of intake of toxic food. How does it affect their state of mind? How does it affect their demeanor? How does it affect their, blood sugar and all the different things? And yeah, maybe that is an explanation of, a lot of times we blame it on, it's screen time or whatever. Well, guess what? It might also be the food,
Yes.
This food they're eating. And it's affecting the kids mentally because their bodies are just being filled with toxins, and our bodies are so important to maintain a balance, a healthy balance. I mean, they're incredibly complex machines, right? And so when we keep putting toxins into the system, you're going to get toxin coming on, a toxic behavior. What are your thoughts on that mental aspect? And I would love to hear from anyone out there in our audience, who, maybe an expert on this or has more information on this that they could share of toxic food and toxic behavior.
Yeah. And even looking at something that we all get daily and we don't even realize how much we're getting is sugar. And I was just talking to my kids last night about this. We all love sugar, right? Sugar, refined sugar. It's in almost everything out there, especially for families like us who are gluten-free. You're thinking, oh, I'm making healthier choices. A lot of the packaged stuff, though, that's gluten-free, what do they add? Sugar. They have to try to make it taste better because it tastes like cardboard. But sugar, and I can find the study on this. There have been a few studies that talk about how the addictive properties of sugar can be similar to those in like cocaine or drugs. It's so true. And sugar, insulin levels, like if you have, I believe it's higher, like spiked insulin constantly, it can affect what basically it boils down to is putting your body into an inflammatory state. So, and then sugar, what it does to your blood sugar by doing this, and then you plummet, and then it goes high and low. And then the behaviors in that, when you see with even us, like as adults, I'll have a good dose of sugar. I'm like, oh my God, I can tackle anything. And then the crash afterwards where you're like, dear God, I need a nap. Imagine for our kids. That's one that's really hard to patrol as a parent too, because it's in everything. And we were just looking at, Starbucks drinks. Holy crap. You cannot go to Starbucks or some of these coffee places and get a drink without it being loaded with so much sugar. That is just not healthy.
And the interesting thing about sugar is it's the first addiction that we encounter as humans.
Really?
What is the one thing? And the scary thing is it's used in a reward system, like an incentive for good behavior with kids.
Yes.
Do this, you get ice cream. Do that, you get a candy. And so many of the camps that my son goes to and things at school, events, it's always donuts, cupcakes, it's someone's birthday. Oh, Dad, we had this, we had that. Oh, man, he comes home with a backpack full of candy. I'm like, what the, is it Halloween? No, they were just giving it, I did really good in school today and I was really well behaved.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no.
Let's go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor. Get your shots. Get a lollipop.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We should not incentivize with sugar as much. But another thing is, and again, going back to other countries, one of the things I love to eat in other countries, especially European countries, is their packaged cookies. Because they're not as sweet.
Oh, really?
Like, a lot of these, packaged cookies, you eat them, they don't have as much sugar. And they actually taste good because they're not just loaded with sugar. How many birthday parties have you been to, Heather? I'm not a big cake person, but some of those cakes, OMG, the amount of frosting that's like Crisco sugar, whatever the hell that is. I mean, it could put you into some kind of comatose state where you're just like overloaded with sugar. And the kids are just, what's that thing that parents do when their kids, their first birthday, right? They just let the kids shove cake all over their face. Yeah, the American dream. I won. I look at it like, oh my God, we're screwed. What are we doing to our kids?
Add some dye to that because we've got to make it look pretty. I remember because we went with the no dyes, and then you try to find like natural dyes to make your kids. I make my kids cakes every year, or we make cupcakes for their birthday parties, and their friends or Christmas cookies will do like these natural dyes. And I remember Nicole, our sister, came one time and she was like, "What is this green? It looked like this like disgusting like chartreuse color on our Christmas cookies because it was natural." But again, that's what we're feeding them at the birthday parties, those bright, colorful things, and they're shoving it in their faces. We are. It's not just our kids. We are too, adults.
They might actually stain your clothes. Doesn't wash out. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
Antifreeze?
I'm glad that we're talking about all of this too, because I know a lot of people are aware, I think it's becoming a little more conscious for people out there, but it's a good thing to cover for us. And I did want to say before we move on that in all of this talk about doctors, I do have a great appreciation for our medical system, especially in emergency situations. And I have, great appreciation for doctors because my family has had some pretty intense medical issues, emergency situations, and doctors can save lives and medicine can save lives. So I'm not anti-doctor. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-pharmaceuticals. But I think what we're trying to say today is let's find a balance with getting to more of a root cause and treating the whole person versus just let's Band-Aid it, Band-Aid it, Band-Aid it, which is kind of what our medical care is now. And let's look at trying to find ways to heal people on a deeper level so that they're not repeat customers. But I did want to say that I am grateful. Doctors have saved lives. They've done a lot for our family. So we need them and we need pharmaceuticals. but I think that a lot of the drugs are overused and overprescribed.
Exactly. And, we're not throwing out Western medicine. We're not saying, oh,
Yeah.
it could only be alternative medicine or whatever. And we should all remind ourselves when we speak up or want to discuss something and maybe offer a criticism or an opposing view, it's not saying all is bad. And we don't have to fall into that trap of, well, if you say one thing, it's got to be all of it. No, we can, in order to make it better for all of us, we can explore other options. Broaden your range a little bit, people. Open your eyes, look around. Maybe that isn't the best. Maybe we can make it better. Maybe we can make our medical system better. We don't have to just take for what it is and say, well, it's the greatest country in the world. It must be good. Bullshit. And it's not the greatest country. We can make the country better, and we can make our medical system better, and we can make our food better. But we have to push back and say, you know what? We don't want the shit anymore. We don't want the bad foods. We don't want the toxic environment. We don't want big industry coming in and taking over and dumping sludge into our rivers and destroying the environment. Let's get back to maybe what the indigenous people did and utilize the environment better and respect nature and utilize the world around us to better serve ourselves and to help others and stop being so dependent on all of these other things and saying, well, that's what it is. It has to be science and medicine and that's it. Well, maybe it could be a little bit of everything. Maybe it could be science, medicine, homeopathic stuff, alternative medicine, Eastern medicine. Maybe it could be many different things. It doesn't have to be one, and you should be able to tailor your life to different things and say, for me, in this particular instance, I'll do that. But yeah, I got a sinus infection right now. Heather, actually, I do have a sinus infection and I'm on antibiotics. And yeah, I'm doing my turmeric juice and all my stuff, my natural remedy stuff. But at the same time, I know hey, I need the antibiotics. And thank you, science, for coming up with that antibiotic to treat my infection to help me get better. Embrace science, embrace doctors, and at the same time, embrace healthy lifestyles, embrace alternative medicines, embrace other things that can only help you to be a healthy person, because we all want to be healthy at the end of the day. I'm sure that's what it is. I don't think there's anyone out there that could say, well, I just want to be unhealthy and do whatever I want and have diabetes and sit on the couch and be unhealthy. No. And be in pain and be unpleasant and die an early death and not have, a life where I can enjoy it and be more fruitful.
Yeah. But then I wonder too, if there are people out there who just don't care because it's too hard. It's too hard to try to get healthy. It's too hard for them. You know what I'm saying? I get that. I've been there where you hit a point where you're like, I'm just going to freaking enjoy life. I don't care. Whatever. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to do what I want and not take care of myself, because it's a challenge sometimes to fight what's been given to us as this is the way that you should do things, and this is what you should eat because this is what's readily available. I think it's difficult for some people, so they're like, whatever, I'm just gonna do what I do.
And I think with that is a reflection of our culture. If you look back at ancient civilizations or even different cultures in the world now, where they embrace the elderly and the knowledge that they have and that they can share with the younger generations, in that knowledge typically is health and well-being. And do this so you don't end up like me, this older person with aches and pains and these health problems, knowing genetically what we have in common. They can share that with you if you're within a tribe or a family or whatever it is. And we don't value that. They have the knowledge. They have the information. Hey, boomers, we love you. This is my shout out to you. We want to hear from you, because I remember our grandparents always saying, Heather, don't do that. Diabetes runs in the family. Don't do that. Heart disease runs in the family. It was always a spin on different advice of, things to look out for, which is important to share with your family. And again, a lot of people do genealogy. And what if you're an orphan or don't know your family? You're trying to find out, information to try and understand, is there any genetic, disposition towards a particular disease or ailments, different things in the family that you might want to be aware of so that you can better prepare yourself for your future. And if we had a better relationship with our elderly individuals in our society and embrace them within our culture, maybe we could get them better information and maybe they could implement a better system. So that way they know they're having the younger generations, their children and grandchildren, taken care of. Boomers, help us out. We need you. Let's implement a healthcare system that takes care of them and that shares that information and knowledge. And there is a chance, a lot of the tech people are saying this, that AI is going to help us get there with this, possibly.
How so?
Possibly. With the resources and the information being compiled in a sense where it can disseminate the information and give it to us in a way where, okay, you're Heather and this is your family and your genetic makeup. Here's what the things you might want to look out for and be concerned with. Mm-hmm. Instead of, medical records being scattered all over the place, trying to get information from family members, maybe through genetic, markers within your family, you can see things and say, okay, this I know could exist for me, maybe not. And again, maybe your mental health can override certain genetic things, which I believe, not to get too into woo-woo stuff, but I
Why
think...
not? Woo-woo it
again,
out,
it's
brother.
It's just like everything else. Consider all the options. Consider everything. And I think, again, we need to look at everything. We don't need to just put everything in a box and say, that's what it is, and that's only that way, and that's what it's got to be. Mm-hmm. And don't rely too much on Big Pharma, and don't rely too much on the farmer's market. Have a little bit of both. Have a little bit of everything. Don't just deny science or deny, healthy, locally grown stuff and say, oh, that's just for the hippies. Have a little bit of both. You might just be healthier. I've always believed the human body doesn't like extreme changes, everything in moderation, everything, there's a balance, a delicate balance with nature, a delicate balance with our bodies, where you can't just go to one extreme or the other. You can't just drink carrot juice or go on some crazy fast for a week and, try to remove all the toxins from your body. That's probably not going to be healthy. It shocks the system too much. Gradual changes and a little bit of medicine, a little bit of healthy eating, a little bit of exercise. Maybe that's the key. And anyone out there who's into the health world, let's hear it from you. Share with us your thoughts. What is it? And Heather,
your sister,
so
your sister, that's me.
Because one of the things that you've kind of taken a deep dive into. Hey, I want your soapbox drop for sure on this, because you've taken a deep dive into this, and I know very little about it, and I would love to learn more. And that is homeopathy. Could you share with us?
Well, so I want to go a little broader first, though, because when you just talked about looking into our genetic sequences, our genes, right? So this is important. Our family's done it. I did it for all 5 of us. We had our genes run through this little system and, looking at all of these issues that we could possibly have, right? And it reads it out and it kind of tells you exactly what you were saying. Like, well, because of this, you might be more prone to like heart issues, blah, blah, blah. However, when you look at something called biohacking, and this is what led me to this, because my family has crappy genes on paper, right? We do. We just do. We have the MTHFR gene, which is a lot of people do, like most of our population does. You can look into that. But it basically means that you cannot detox properly from a lot of things. So that's just one example. However, what I've tried to explain to my kids as well is, just because these are the cards that we've been dealt doesn't mean that that's how our life is going to play out. Just because I have these genes and these, issues with my genes, that does not mean that I have to be a victim to those. So enters something called biohacking. And biohacking is maybe a newer term, but what I love about it is that it gives you as a human the power to hack into changing your life and your health. Okay. So there are a lot of different examples of biohacking, and everyone probably has their own definition, but it's things like, different diets. For us, it's a low inflammation diet, and that includes being gluten and dairy free, because for our family, we tend to be more inflamed when we eat certain foods. Biohacking can look like, for some people, like cold plunges, ice baths, because they say that works well for their system, or doing things like where you monitor, a lot of people are doing that with their Apple Watches. I use an Oura ring, OURA ring, which tracks things like my sleep, and it tracks my activity throughout the day, and it will tell me different things about my bio-individual needs based on the readings that I have. Now, just to say why I do the Oura Ring instead of the Apple Watch is because there are less EMFs emitted. So that's electromagnetic frequencies. But I think that's important too, because I do think Whoever agrees with me, please comment and support me here. The EMFs are another big issue with why we as humans right now, we are being bombarded with all of this stuff, with all of the things that we have going on with our phones and with Wi-Fi and cell phone towers. And I know people might think this is nuts, but it could explain why we are constantly inflamed as humans. So getting back to the biohacking though, there are a lot of different, some people are wearing like the glucose monitors, those little white things that they stick into their skin. And that's a form of biohacking where they're able to, I think, someone can correct me on this, but I think it's to track their insulin activity and see how their blood sugar gets raised throughout the day based on what they're eating. And then, nutritionally, there's support. There are a lot of ways to do this biohacking. But for me personally, what I found is in order to support my body and maybe these genes that aren't very healthy, is to look into ways to try to help my system. And red light therapy, that's another one a lot of people are doing right now. And I love it. I have red light therapy, and it's a way to, again, try to reduce inflammation in your body. And I think that is one of the biggest methods that we're an inflamed society. And when you're inflamed, you're more susceptible to disease. So with our diet, with our environment, if we can try, some people do a lot of supplements. We do a lot of vitamins and supplements. Ways to keep your body at more of a less inflamed state is my point with it. Now, getting into homeopathy. This is a whole other topic, and someday I would actually love to cover this because homeopathy is actually not very well known in the United States. And my first experience with homeopathy was when I had moved to California and I got a really bad case of the flu. It was so bad. And I remember I lived alone. So I was dragging myself to Whole Foods thinking they must have something that will help me. And I went into Whole Foods sick as a dog and asked the person working there, do you have anything for the flu? And this guy was like, yeah, come on over to the homeopathic section. And I went over there not knowing anything about it. Saw all of these little tubes of things and things that were labeled homeopathy. And he handed me oscillococcinum, which is actually a very common homeopathic remedy that's even sold in drugstores now, and which I love. Drugstores are selling homeopathic remedies, especially when it comes to things for babies. But it's OSCILL. It's pronounced oscillococcinum. And he handed it to me. He's like, try this. And I went home, no joke. I took one dose, which is a little tiny thing full of these white sugar pellets. And within 2 hours, I was feeling 10 times better. And I was like, what is this voodoo? And that just opened the door, right? So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I remember other times I would go back and I would have allergies or something. And I would look and they had this little printout that I could look. And a lot of it, I'm going to pull this up because I want, if you are listening and not watching, I'm holding up these little blue bottles that are by a company called Boiron, I think is how you say it. And these are what you often see when you go into a health food store like Whole Foods or Sprouts or something. These are actually becoming more common. And it's this little blue tube full of these homeopathic pellets. Arnica montana is what it's called, is a very common one that I've seen is more widely used now. And what I thought was funny is when people go to get Botox, oftentimes the nurse practitioner or the injector will say, grab some arnica from your health food store and take 3 or 4 pellets before you come in. And then after you get the injections, take this many afterwards. And I've even seen sports doctors use arnica for injuries and things like that, concussions. Again, this is not medical advice, just putting this out there one more time. But the fact that we can use something that's a little bit alternative. So homeopathy, a lot of people don't believe in it, and I totally get it. I didn't understand it for a long time because it's kind of like energetic medicine, and it's the whole concept is like treats like. So they're saying if you have food poisoning, that you are taking something that's from the the root of food poisoning. I'm going to botch all of this, and you sort of distill it down to this super low potency of that if that goes into one of these little pellets, that energetically that will kind of trigger your body to heal from within. And, it's kind of similar to the concept of vaccines in the sense that they're going to inject, a little piece of that in order. in order for your body to create a response to it, like an immune response to it. But homeopathy, what I love about it and why I sought this out is because there are no side effects really. I mean, there have been times when people have like taken the whole tube and it will do something called proving, which like can make like their symptoms worse for a little bit, but nothing like it's nothing that is super bad or scary. So this gentle part of homeopathy. Now, again, we can get into this in another episode, because I would love to talk more about my family working with homeopaths, and they're the ones who have gone to school for it, who have studied it. But in other countries, India is a big one. England, Europe in general, they use homeopathy regularly, and it's just part of their culture. And when I talk to my friends from India, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've always used homeopathy." I just think that it's something to look at. You definitely cannot just go willy-nilly about it. Fortunately, we do have books about homeopathy. It is best to work with a pro on this one. I agree. But if it's for something like acute, which is what I like to tell my kids, like, okay, you fell down and you bruised your knee. Yeah, take some arnica or put some arnica gel on it. That works great. Or if it's something like you got the flu and you want to take something like the oscillococcinum, that's an acute. That's something that is a sickness that, okay, this certainly won't hurt it, might help it, right? And I think Tristan, I've given you some ideas about homeopathic remedies because I've been studying it and I just have seen so much of a difference. We've used it for myself for autoimmune conditions and my kids' autoimmune conditions, skin conditions, and other big things with our family. My husband, I don't know that he was a huge believer because it is one of those things you don't get like instant results. So if we don't get instant results, like when we take the pharmaceutical and we feel instant results, we're like, well, it's not working. It's low and slow sometimes, the process. However, my husband suffered from migraines, and I finally found a remedy for him that matched. And it works. So now when he starts to get a migraine, he takes it. And again, I'm not saying this will work for everyone, but there have been some people who say, well, it's a placebo effect, right? You think that it's going to help you, so it helps you. And here's my feeling about it. Okay. Okay, if that works, that can be the same thing they've found with pharmaceuticals, right? If you go to the doctor and you're thinking that something's going to fix you, this brain of ours, this mind of ours can have so much power, like, oh, it's fixing me. So I just say open mind, you never know. But this has been one of our ways to do some biohacking or alternative ways of not treating ourselves, but being treated, because I don't treat ourselves all the time. I get the pros in with us, but to just complement like the regular, like our usual way of doing things with Western medicine and alternative medicine and Western medicine. If we can, like you were saying, marry those together and look at maybe just some ways to go deeper in our healing. And that is another way. Like, let me just say this about homeopathy. They say that when you're working with a homeopath and you're going in to treat yourself, be treated constitutionally, they call it, you are like, it's kind of like an artichoke, where you have to peel away many layers before you can start to get into like the heart of the artichoke and the true healing, especially through homeopathy or things like therapy. You have to go and dig deep. You have to peel away these layers in order to really allow your body. We as humans, I think you touched on this, we want to be healthy. We want to thrive. It is just human nature that we are here and we are trying to survive, right? So if we can find ways to support that and really get into the deeper stuff, and that will lead to a whole other topic of how the mental aspect of this, our mental health, can also make us sick and keep us sick. And until we take a deep dive into our trauma and there's been so much work with trauma release. I did some with my own type of therapy, EMDR and somatic therapy, that goes deep and releases trauma. And there are theories that say that is what is directly connected to illness in some of us, is not letting that trauma out. And you don't just let it out, like you move through it and past it so that you can heal. And the healing can happen not just mentally, but also physically. I don't know. Have you experienced anything like that?
Oh, yes. And
brother?
I definitely agree with the, idea of your consciousness affecting your body or your mental state.
Mhm.
And that's where, it's been proven that placebo works. They'll give
Oh, yeah.
people, a medicine and a placebo, and the placebo actually works because the consciousness, the people are convinced like, oh, I'm taking medicine, therefore I'm going to get better. And they can change their body, reality, whatever it is, however you want to spin
Mhm.
it, and literally make that change. And the same thing can happen with your genetic predisposition of, oh, I have this, I'm going to have diabetes or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
mind over matter, right? That's what the advice has always been given. Now, the argument against, homeopathy and alternative medicines is, well, they're not FDA approved. Well, the CDC, well, the scientists, well, how do they? It's like, you know what? You might want to do a little bit of research for yourself, because when you do a deep dive into that stuff, a lot of those programs, the testing programs, are funded and they're paid for heavily to have a drug pass. And why do you think Big Pharma's paid out billions of dollars in lawsuits from opioid addiction? Because obviously these things that were passed by the FDA, and even things, I'm sure people have different arguments about the pandemic and inoculations and whatnot. Won't go into that, but that's the argument against it. Well, that's not science. Well, hasn't been approved yet. Well, that hasn't been, vetted or validated. Well, guess what? Maybe what hasn't been done in the right way anyway. So you need to question both sides of it. And going back to ancient civilizations and indigenous people, they survived on this planet, and science is just basically trying to mimic what exists out there in the natural world of natural remedies, right? I mean, we've just done the biology analysis and found things in nature that help, defeat certain things. And so the medicine man or medicine person within a tribe or a culture, they would help, and they had all these different remedies for ailments, and it worked for thousands of years. And here we are. Yeah, we can dive deeper now with science and look at things, on a microscopic level and atomic structures, all of that, and go deeper into it. But we should not throw out one or the other. Maybe we need to consider other options, and don't be closed-minded. And again, like we say, or I say on every episode, my damn diatribe is be more open-minded. And it's so true about so many things. You actually have a fuller life, and maybe find and discover something better for yourself, for your health, is if you open your mind a little bit. And, when you see people traveling abroad to get medical, people that have the means and the money to do it, it's because they know that the system here isn't perfect and it needs to be changed. And so they go elsewhere to hopefully find a system that functions a little better and helps the patients more.
Yeah. And I think in the United States, I will say this, that we are really good at trauma care. If there's trauma, we have some of the best doctors and surgeons and methods and medicines for traumatic events. Yes. I fully support and believe in that. So again, we're not saying that we are, not going to use our medical system when necessary. But I think what we're both trying to get at is, let's look at the open-mindedness of maybe there are other ways to support it. I mean, for me, like homeopathy, when I started researching it, it's been around for over 200 years. Over 200 years. If it didn't work, like I believe the royal family in England, I believe, because they said that Queen Elizabeth was a devout user of homeopathy. If that's the case, then why can't we take a look at this and possibly use it here in the US more often? I think that a lot of times people are it's out of fear, and this is what we're being told, like this is the way to heal and this is not. I see this a lot too in, cancer treatments. I do have a couple of people that I know who are going against the grain and seeking alternative treatment for cancer rather than just diving into what the standard is. Is that wrong? I don't know. I don't think it's wrong, but maybe some people would say that it is. Yeah. And I also wanted to say, when you were talking about, I always think about this when I spent a lot of time learning about growing my own things on my hydroponic stand. And I started looking at growing certain herbs and plants, medicinal plants, not the medicinal plants that maybe some of you are thinking, but I was looking into when I was having a huge uptick of anxiety and my nervous system was literally stuck in fight or flight. And I sought many different natural ways to support that. One of them was I was growing my own lemon balm and looking at plant medicine. And I started making my own tinctures, which I loved doing. And it just reminded me of like, these are what our ancestors did. We relied on what Mother Nature and the earth gave us. And if we got back to a little bit of that, like I was growing stinging nettle to help with the nervous system and had to handle it with gloves and like I distilled it in alcohol and did all the things. And I know that sounds a little like out there, but I think if we really look at these things, and that's sort of where homeopathy comes in, it is about a lot of plant medicine and ways to heal your body through the earth and Mother Nature.
Right. And that, again, goes back to maybe we need to consider that more. But one of the reasons that we don't, and what is pushed on us, if you think about it, it's all about money,
Of course,
capitalism, and who's lobbying the most and who's getting the approval from the FDA, who's pushing all this money to make more money. Another thing, I think about our kids and in school and lifestyle. How much focus, as we're teaching them test taking and all the different algorithms they got to learn for math now and even art and whatnot. How much of it is, hey, kids, how much exercise are you getting a day? What are you eating? Health and wellness class. Let's have our health and wellness class. Okay, kids, sit down. We're going to talk about exercise. We're going to talk about healthy eating. We're going to talk about, as they get older, sexuality. We're going to talk about mental health. And hey, you know what? It's okay to seek mental help, to get, a psychiatrist or go to see a counselor if you want to talk to someone. We used to have that food pyramid thing, which now they say is flipped, right? The food pyramid's flipped. It was upside down all these years. This bullshit pyramid with like, eat these foods and you'll be fine, which now they say is just complete bogus nonsense. I don't know what Maha is doing on that. Make America Healthy Again. I don't know what they're doing on that, but I think we as a culture and society need to step back and say, how do we fix this? How do we make this better? We need to educate and provide resources to make it not so difficult to be healthy. And if we're healthier as a society, it's going to cost less to treat those who are ill.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really done a soapbox drop today, but I have one if you may indulge me, because soapbox drop.
Soapbox drop.
All right.
Let's hear it.
So again, soapbox drop is our way of allowing someone to jump on their soapbox. We're saying like, get on. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinions on whatever we're talking about or anything. And you can always jump on your soapbox, record yourself, especially via social media, tag us. We want to be able to not just have you guys listen to us talk and jump on our soapboxes, but we want to hear what you have to say too, because we think that's part of this whole healing of the human race, is to be able to listen to each other and share ideas and be open-minded. So my soapbox drop for the day. What if we implemented a system, sort of like, with insurance companies, with, I don't know, the government, where just like you get a good driver discount if you don't get into any accidents, if you don't get all these points against you, what if we did that for our health system so that you got like reduced insurance rates, or you got some sort of kickback or incentive because you didn't have to see the doctor that much and your levels were great and you've done this, or your body has made these changes, or you have done this many therapy sessions that we offered, and that you're actually being proactive about your health. And for that, here, let's reward you in some way, just like a good driver. Like we'll call it healthy human discounts. Like, give us some healthy human discounts in life. Or here, have this bonus, like card to go out and buy some healthy food. If we could develop something like that in our society, I think more people would be more incentivized to actually want to make a difference for their health and their lives or their families.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And it's so true. Move the incentive to the front end instead of the back end. When it's too late, or then you're just treating the disorder, the disease, or the symptoms, put it on the front end. Hey, let's start early, and let's even incentivize our younger kids to go out and be more active. Now I see all these electric things like scooters and bicycles and whatnot, even pedal assist stuff, where I'm like, yeah, but are you really getting exercise? Crap. I mean, these poor kids are on their tablets all day anyway. They have so much damn screen time. And then when they're out in the environment, do they need to be on just an electric propelled thing, or maybe they should be pedaling or walking or getting a little physical activity that's going to help their bodies, instead of just sitting and sitting and sitting and pushing a button and looking at a screen. So yeah, I love that, Heather. I think, again, like you compared it to the good driver discount. Yeah, let's have something that rewards people, that acknowledges them for having preventative care measures. You joined this group. Oh, you're doing yoga. You signed up for a yoga class. You get a 10% discount on your insurance this month. If we want to keep this privatized and keep it in this, capitalistic, realm, yeah, let's create incentives like, oh my gosh, yeah, you joined a gym and it shows that you've been going, 3 times a week or whatever. You get a percentage of a discount on your insurance because you're doing that.
Yeah. But make it accessible to everyone. Don't make this just something that, for the elite, for the people who are over this, salary range. Make this accessible to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes back to lifestyle. We have to rethink our lifestyle in this country, because I believe there was a time when we didn't work so much and we had, the opportunity to exercise more, to do more recreational activities and manage our stress better, get more sleep, have a better diet, because the opportunities were there to purchase things, to cook, to have the time to cook, and we talked about this before, the time in the day for 2 parents or a single parent. It's so challenging. And we need to get back to a culture and a lifestyle that embraces self-care and self-respect. Because it's as if we've lost our way, and we need to come back and look at ourselves and embrace who we are and embrace our families and embrace our loved ones and stop running around trying to catch up with the Joneses and competing with each other. And, well, I have the nicer car. I got the newer this, and look at my house, and look at this, and I have that. And, whoa, I got more than them. I got more stuff. Well, that doesn't give you shit. And then all of a sudden you have cancer and you're dying. And where do you go? Oh, I lose everything. And now my family's broke, so I had to pay my medical bills, and they have to live in a shack, or they live under the freeway in a tent. It's like, what are we doing? Wake up.
Because if we don't have our health, what do we have, right? I always reflect on, did you see the movie WALL-E? And the scenes with the people who are just like in the pods, just sort of hypnotized. They're hypnotized and they're just sort of caught up in their pods, and having that just unplugged from this machine of this mode that we get into. I think exactly what you're saying. We need to make some big changes. So everyone out there, if you're listening, again, let us know.
Sorry, I'm brainwashed. I was just on my social media device.
He was just holding up his phone, scrolling.
It's like the screenslaver, Pixar, they're always doing this. The screenslaver in The Incredibles, like...
It's true, though.
I don't need
They're
insurance.
onto something.
I just need to work. Yeah, we're brainwashed. Wake up.
Let me take my meds. But yes, I think this was great. This was great. And so, again, I want to keep this open and open-minded, and let's just find a way to keep healing. Heal the world, right? We are the world. Let's heal the children. Oh, wait, that's not the song.
We are the people.
That'll be my new song.
It's true. We have to love ourselves. We have to love each other. We just have to get back to that. We're at a time now in our world, it's full of craziness and absolute chaos, that we got to start from here. Start with yourself, and then the people around you. Start the change here. Start making that change, and then start influencing others around you, and start a positive shift for all of us to get back to healthier being and a better life. It will make all of our lives better. If we have better health, better healthcare, better time for ourselves, time for our families, we'll have a fuller, more loving life. We just have to get back to it.
Well said. Yes, well said, brother. Yes,
what's something, I bet I know something, Heather, that your daily hack, I'm going to tell you what I think your daily hack is. Your daily health hack was something that, that just invigorates you and brings you back to your happy place. Let me guess, is it dancing? Is dancing the thing that just brings you back?
After going out and doing some earthing and coming back for your nap, maybe turn on your red light and turn on some music and dance, because movement, right? That's what another thing. Like, it's all about movement and releasing endorphins. And this is as much for your physical health as your mental health. We all were dancers when we were little kids. You look at a little kid and they're out there and bopping to the music and they don't care. Kids, they love to dance. It's innate. So adults, we lose that. And that's why I'm encouraging this, your daily hack. Get up and dance.
It's
Let's
primal.
do it.
It's primal. It's ingrained in us. It's primal.
Right?
Dancing is such that visceral experience that brings out joy in humans, and you just got to do it, even if you're not good like me. You just do it anyway.
Just whatever. Yes. Close the
Fun.
door. Turn on the music. Shut out the world for even just like 2 minutes of your day. I promise this will change everything. Here, let's go, Tristan. Come on.
All right. Let's do it.
I'm gonna salsa today.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, it's a 1, 2, 3. Moving and shaking and having some fun. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope that you guys are just maybe feeling a little bit better just
Healthier.
from even being able to talk about this. Healthier.
Feel healthier, everyone. Stay healthy. Oh my goodness.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys.
Like and subscribe, please. Thanks so much for joining us. This was a passionate episode for us because, of course, we lost our mother to breast cancer, and we know health and wellness is so important that we just want for all of us to be healthier. That's our wish.
Healthier and happier. Let's go.
Like and subscribe. Thanks so much.
Thank you.